You are not making an object disappear. You're making the space that it rests in disappear. All objects generalize to a spherical shell of radiation, even the torus. Now, this may seem like a screwed up argument, because in topology, toruses are different from a spherical intersection. This is a circular cross section of a visual reality. This is a spherical intersection. This is actually intersections and cross sections of my idea of an invisible visual intersection of reality. And that's the basis for this invisibility suit, dual adaptive camouflage. The puppet can be deformed into a sphere within a sphere. The outer shell of the body can be a sphere, be deformed into a sphere. So that's easy to argue. An invisible suit, invisibility suit, is a continuous surface like a sphere. So it can be deformed into a sphere. So can its puppet interface. But for the torus, it's a little bit harder to argue. Not that the whole torus is one giant sphere, but every section of the torus can be reduced to parts of a sphere, reproduced to parts of a sphere, or else you wouldn't be able to make this torus invisible. And you can make any object invisible with the surface area in a three-dimensional space. So everywhere you look at each section of the torus is a spherical intersection, and all these spherical intersections are sort of patched together to create an intersection of a visual reality. This is drawn without the interface inside. This is just an image I took off the web. But a torus can be reduced to a spherical shell of radiation. Actually, it's sections that patch it up together. So, in this sense, this is different from normal topology, where the torus is not equivalent to a sphere. Its sections are equivalent to a sphere. The sections that patch together to create the whole ring of the torus. Altogether, it's a spherical intersection. So in that sense, everything with a surface area, from something as extreme as an invisible suit, a human body, an animal body, or whatever, see these intersections that it goes through. It creates a shell of radiation, and the shell radiation is what you need to create an intersection of a visual reality. And for a full intersection. And so I argue that even a torus is equivalent to a sphere when you only consider the bounding surface, the closed surface of the torus, and the patchwork of its ring that creates separate toruses along the ring of the separate spherical intersections, and altogether it creates a giant system of spherical intersections. And so in this sense, even a torus is comparable to a sphere. Everything that has a shell radiates a spherical shell of light radiation. Anything that can be made invisible can be generalized to a sphere. And so when I say that you're not making space invisible, you're not making the object invisible. Any object, a human body, a donut, can be generalized to a spherical form, can be generalized to the spherical intersection of a visual reality, which is the spherical intersection of space itself. So that's what I'm getting at. You're generalizing every surface area, and we all are surface areas. Everything in nature has a surface area, I believe. and everything can be generalized to space itself, the intersection of a visual reality in space. But there's a paradox that I believe I've found. If you're making space invisible, which is what this void is, which is what the interior of this human suit is, where the person rests in, that space is invisible. But where does the space go? Does it go into the intersection, to the very puppet interface, or does it go in? Is that the space that's made invisible? Is this a space that was made invisible? Because there's obviously a space here in the intersection. You can say that that's the outside world, but you can also say that that's where the space went when it was made invisible, went inside, and it now appears coming through the opposite directions. So I think of that as a paradox of a phantom space, because I'm not quite sure if I've made space invisible in this sense, or if I just put it into the interior, which makes it visible going to the opposite side. So, or is it just the outside reality that's going through? Are they equivalent? Is the outside reality equivalent to the interior space? But I believe that you don't make an object invisible, you make the space that it rests in invisible.